happy, good Aston Villa Day, news day, whatever you want to call it. Aston Villa fans on the channel, you legends. We have some good news around Aston Villa transfer stuff for the first time probably in a long time in this transfer window, and that is that Boubacar Kamara has officially put pen to paper and signed a new 5-year deal at Aston Villa, taking him at the club until 2030, pending him being sold. The deal is apparently massive. We're talking £180,000 a week. We're talking he's going to be the highest earner at Villa. Is it going to be a good deal for the club? Getting someone like Kamara tied down to a contract with all the interest around Europe's Champions League teams, I think, is very good. We're going to be looking at his stats, looking at some highlights of him, talking about what Kamara does for Aston Villa, because it's a lot more than meets the eye, and discussing the new deal and why I think this is a fantastic bit of news and we should all be very, very excited for it. But before we get into all of that, of course, I've got to do my plug. We're close to 4,000 subscribers, so go ahead, leave a like, subscribe for more with notifications on so you don't miss a thing that happens. I'm your host with the most, call me Rogers, you're watching Roger Reports, and let's talk about Boubacar Kamara. And here he is, the main man himself, just 25 years of age. This contract will bring him up to being 30 in 2030 at the club. So that's a massive, massive thing for us, because these 5 years, you would imagine, are going to be Boubacar Kamara's prime 5 years. Current market value of around £45.2 million. Obviously plays in that defensive midfield slot for Aston Villa. He's been at the club since 2022. If we swap over here, when we signed him on a free transfer from Marseille. Now, he did, of course, join in 2022 when Villa were a bit more willy-nilly, shall we say, with the larger contracts that we were handing out to players. So he was already on quite a decent amount of money. He was already towards the top-end earners at Aston Villa. So the fact that his contract's gone up a little bit in the grand scheme of things to 180 roughly grand a week isn't that much of a surprise to me. Now, the one thing I want to point out before we get into his stats is this, right? If we look at his seasons here on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see the first season when he came in, and we did sign him, as you can see there, in June. So it wasn't like a January transfer. He only managed 24 games due to injury. The season after, he only managed 20 games. And what an impact he made in those 20 games. And you think of that season, that was our Champions League season. That was the Douglas Luiz, Boubacar Kamara season. Everyone thinks of it as those two in that centre mid, in that 4-4-2 were amazing. But he actually only managed to do 20 games again due to injury. And now last season, again, injuries meant that he only played 26 times in the Premier League. And his pattern of playing, he was a bit disrupted, right? He's never managed to have a full, solid run of games for Aston Villa. Hopefully with the new contract behind him, he just doesn't get injured now, and we can make the most of him, because you can look, 35 games there in League and 34 games in League, and the season before, not too many, but that was when he was starting to break through. Let's not forget we signed him when he was like 22, 23. So he does have the legs for a full season. He just needs to, do it, for want of a better word. But we go down to his stats, and again, they weren't the best last season, to be honest with you. Like I say, when he's had a good run in the team, especially in that Champions League season, there were a few games he was unplayable. When he has a good run and he hasn't had these injuries and he's in and he's out and he's in and he's out, I think he's fantastic. I think he's one of the best holding midfielders in the world. Definitely sort of top 10 probably in that singular position. But he just needs that run of games. And his stats again last season, again, good pass accuracy there. 88% pass accuracy on his long balls, was 50 as well. 50% dribble success ratio. Did make 21 tackles in the short amount of game time that he did get. 115 duels. 21 aerial duels. Again, I think the per 90s will be a little bit sort of kinder to him in some of the stats. And it wasn't the best season. You compare that to his Premier League season last season. Again, only managed 20 games to be fair, but you look at the per 90s, the pass accuracy a lot higher, tackle success a lot higher as well. Season before that, again, was his first season. He didn't particularly play that many games as well. But a little bit, we were a little bit more defensive, albeit, all in all that season. But he does need to definitely perhaps up those stats a bit. And again, I think it's just going to be due to playing time, which he needs to get, and he needs to get it a lot under his belt this season to justify that massive deal that Aston Villa are giving him. But how does he compare against Europe's top 5 leagues, players in his position? Let's find out. Let's go. So there's a couple of things that stand out, right? Attackingly, that definitely isn't a word. In an attacking sense, he has never been the best. He's never been the most attacking player in the world, to be honest with you. Only recently scored his first Premier League goal for Aston Villa, and that was against Tottenham on the second to the last day of last season. But that's not what he's in the team to do. You look at his attempted passes in the top half. Pass completion puts him in the top sort of 20th percentile there. I'll give him the extra percent. His tackles, clearances, aerial duels won and interceptions, all in the green statistic category. But you look at all of this stuff that we've shown you, right? The stats from last season and the season before. His per 90 stats against the Europe's top 5 leagues. And you think to yourself, why on earth are we all so excited about Boubacar Kamara signing this new contract? Why is he the highest earner at Aston Villa? Well, I said it earlier on. He's a player that you need to just watch and understand the class that he oozes and how important he is. And Emery clearly rates him as a very important player to his system, which is always important. So let's switch over to a YouTube highlight that really does highlight it a lot better than these stats ever could. And here we have it, thanks to Ultras FC TV. Link in the description below. It is Boubacar Kamara from last season. As you can see here, the wherewithal to go in and nick the ball in those good positions. And here, again, this is what I like about Kamara. Look at that. I remember this goal, that did lead to a goal. I remember that very well, the way he turned 2 players. Again, what a tackle that is from behind. That's against Crystal Palace, a team that we are historically awful against. Here, bringing the ball down nicely, takes it past one, and a good ball outside. Again, look, coming in that defensive midfield role and have a word with that for a ball. That's absolutely outrageous. Here you can see, and this is what he does for Villa a lot. He will be the one that drops in to that centre-back role for Villa. He doesn't step out as much as an Onana, a Tielemans when Tielemans is next to him. When he does step out, though, look at that. McGinn should have definitely done better with that there. But here he is again, winning the ball in a great position, starting that counter-attack. Again, look at that for a tackle. That's absolutely fantastic. And then he has this passing range as well. And the passing range, don't get me wrong, he doesn't have the same passing range as Douglas Luiz did. Here he is showing off a bit of pace as well. He's not the quickest in the world, but he definitely can get it done. And that one there, if we pause that and bring it back, this one's a good indicator because he does this a lot for Villa, right? When Matty Cash, who I think played this game, because this is the Club Bruges game, I think. When Matty Cash gets forward, or he's out of position, which does happen a lot as well, Boubacar Kamara is the one that will come in and cover that slot, that right-back role. And he's done that for Villa for a couple of seasons now. And here he is again, lovely little ball there, out to Matty Cash. And he just brings that element of calm, and teams need that element of calm in a defensive midfielder. You can't... There he is, sending Visser for a hot dog. You can't have that erraticness. And look at this. Under pressure, Joe Linton in his back draws the foul very well. Here he's going to bring the ball out. I mean, look at that. He's absolutely ridiculous on the ball sometimes. And this is where he excels as well for Villa. Is picking up that ball in that pocket and being able to be comfortable receiving the ball with his back to goal with a defender, an attacker in this sense, but a defender for him, in his back. And that's a rare talent nowadays. Look at that again. Receives the ball, back to goal, happily to turn with it and ignore the advances of the attacking player in his back. And these to me highlight how important he is for Villa. He's invaluable. The stats, he's not a statistic player. I don't think Rodri would have the best stats in the world if you compared him against Kevin De Bruyne in terms of output and stuff like that. But stuff like that don't go down on the stats. And Boubacar Kamara is one of the best in the world at it. And also, he allows us to do something like this. Now, Aston Villa have been experimenting with a 3 at the back in our 2 pre-season games so far. And it would appear, everything seems to point towards, all the journos are saying it as well, that Villa might look to be practicing and possibly sometimes implement a 3-4-3 system. So it could look something like this. And I've put Onana in there. That would likely be Tielemans. I feel like Onana might have a role to play in this team going forward. But Kamara allows us to unlock something, which is a complete attacking freedom on the right-hand side, whether it's Matty Cash, whether it's Denzel Dumfries, if the rumours are hopefully going to come true that he might join the club, they come to fruition. It allows complete attacking overload and freedom because Kamara will drop in there and do that role. Kamara's so good on his own in a counter-attacking sense, in terms of defending a counter-attack. He allows, whether that is, Onana, whether that is Tielemans, to stride forward almost at will. He unlocks 1, 2, he can drop into centre-back, 3, and constantly go out to right-back if we're really caught out. He unlocks 3 positions just by his mere presence on the pitch. And let's not forget, if we do play a bit more traditional, shall we say, if we just put Cash up there for argument's sake, and swap Cash to Tielemans, there we go, drop Maatsen back in here, let's say just Concert right back. I know it would never be Pau and Mings in the middle, but if we're playing in a traditional sense, are you telling me that triangle of Onana, Kamara and Tielemans doesn't make you just a little bit happy inside? Because it makes me happy inside. Look, is this contract a risk? It's a big contract. It's 5 years. We're under pressure for the wage to turnover, the amount of money we're spending on player wages effectively. But honestly, I think if you're a Villa fan and you've watched full 90s and you've watched games where we have Boubacar Kamara versus games where we don't have Boubacar Kamara, I think you know how important he is to this team and just how fantastic. He is as much of a Rolls Royce of a central defensive midfielder, or a DM now as we like to call it, as Ezri Konsa is a Rolls Royce of a centre-back. And with Tielemans next to him, he absolutely unlocks Tielemans' full potential to be able to burst through the lines and find those passes. He allows Onana, when Onana's next to him, the freedom to stride forward. And he doesn't get the credit all the time. He doesn't get the headlines. He doesn't get the goals. He doesn't get the assists. But he's a facilitator, and he facilitates all of his teammates around him to be better in that game and to be more dynamic and do more on the pitch, because he's so happy to sit and do that dog work in that defensive midfield slot. I think it's a fantastic deal. He needs to prove now that he can play a full season without getting injured. That's my main concern. I don't want another season where he plays under 30 Premier League games. Boubacar Kamara, with that new contract, should have a reignited passion to get Villa back into the Champions League, to be a leader on and off the pitch. He's 25 now. Could he be captain material? Possibly. But he should be what he should be wanting now in his head. He should be every day when he's at Bodymoor Heath, when he's in America with the lads on pre-season, when he's at home, his thought should be, I should be the first name on Unai's team sheet when he comes up with it. Maybe he wouldn't be the first name over Morgan Rogers and Matty Cash, because Matty Cash does have naked pictures of Unai Emery on his phone, I'm convinced of it. But he needs to be thinking, I will be there every single week. And I bloody well hope that he is. This is brilliant news. We've also launched a bid for JD Camvot. There's a video already on the channel that I'll chuck a link in the description to go and watch that one. It's starting to pick up. I'll see you soon.